Welcome everyone to episode number 77 of the Broken by Concept League of Legends video and audio podcast. This is the podcast that's all about solo queue improvement in the League of Legends ranked solo duo system. Now, starting with the ranked solo duo system, Curtis.
Yep.
I think we might be missing the mark here. Okay, Curtis?
Okay, what are we missing here?
So we're going to talk about Champions Queue, okay? And Champions Queue is a new thing that Riot have announced for NA specifically. We're going to go into the details specifically, but I just want to sort of set the scene in terms of the way we're going to approach this, right, Curtis?
Okay, so just to caveat this, I know nothing about it.
Curtis knows nothing about it.
Now, is this something, so it's only NA?
Yep.
And so is this something that's going to be implemented in EU eventually? Are they testing it on NA?
No comment around that. No.
Okay.
NA only, because NA, they got their own unique problems.
Okay.
So when I say we're missing the mark, like we're sort of like forgetting, not even forgetting, just like not really thinking about like the solo queue process, the improvement, how you actually get better at the game. And, talking about, the topical ways of like talent versus, actual having a work and process that we talk about, right? Because we're against talent, right? We hate talent. We don't believe in talent. I'm just kidding. We actually do like talent.
Yeah, I mean, it's
not
important.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely relevant.
Yeah, it is relevant. Yeah, but we're like, big. Like, we want to see consistent results that are like you can actually like put effort towards something and actually get results, not just random.
Right.
It's not random.
Yeah,
right?
well, something that's just not random, essentially.
Yeah, basically, that's what we're doing, right?
Because most of the way people approach solo queue is like just you've got a blindfold on,
throw enough shit at a wall, eventually it sticks.
Yeah, throw it there. Some of it might work, some of it may not, and you don't really know what is or isn't working. That's right.
And I guess our coaching philosophy is always like try, fail, alter.
Yep.
Try, fail, alter, right? Until we sort of like get the consistency down.
Yeah. That's right. And then in a way, a lot of what we coach is things that we do ourselves, and then we kind of like break it down into kind of concepts in a way, right? And then we can like isolate concepts, and then you can kind of focus on specific things as much as you possibly can to a certain extent.
All right, so that's our baseline, Curtis. Okay, so we're going to approach this through the improvement process, right? Okay. So let's start with the facts with Champions Queue. So, Champions Queue is going to be a separate queue system on the North American server. And the most obvious basic one, it's going to be on the west coast of North America.
Okay.
And that's important because the west coast, LA, that's where all Riot Games is based. That's where they're headquartered and where the LCS is and where all the pro players are. So all the facilities, TSM's ones, 100 Thieves, like Compound or whatever they call it. They're going to have that for those players. So who this is for pro players, academy players, and maybe some other like amateur up and coming high elo players. Okay. So the first one is going to be like, lower ping, which is what a lot of people have been asking for because currently the server's based in Chicago. And if you actually look at where Chicago is, it's actually at a really good location. It's like the server like has to be in Chicago for North America because it has to cater for the East, like Canada and stuff and New York and that sort of stuff. But because it just can't be on the West Coast because that means Canada and stuff that it's just be
too far away. Yeah.
So,
isn't it kind of like in the top?
Yeah, it's sort of like Chicago's like sort of
the
top. It's like sort of like, let's say if like it's about halfway in betwing. Like Canada. So it's
like at the top in the middle.
It's very strategically placed. Like I actually looked at it. I was like, this makes sense why the server's in Chicago, right? Because it's catering to everyone, catering to the casual player base, right? So that's why they have the server there. And then that's why they need to make this one for lower ping. Because a huge one is people say that. So when you play on LA, it's like 80 ping or whatever, 70 ping, I think.
Is it 70? Isn't it 60?
60, 70, 80. I think it varies, yeah.
Right,
60, 70 ping, yeah. So, and a big reason why people feel like NA doesn't really hit on the mark on the world stage is because, Korea gets to play on 8 ping. All these other servers, they play on way lower ping, and so they have a disadvantage mechanically, right? That's the thought process.
Okay.
So that's one of the things. The other thing Champions Queue is going to be is it's going to theoretically get rid of... So this is from an interview with Chris Greeley, the LCS commissioner. He did Travis Gaffer did an interview with him. It's on Spotify if you guys want to look at it. I forgot the name of it. We'll maybe link it. We'll see how we go. So this is some quotes from him. So essentially they're trying to do is they're trying to create more serious solo queue matches. He was saying that the problem with solo queue, NA solo queue, is that there is too many trolls, one tricks, and that there's no voice comms.
Wait, so this is coming from him?
From the LCS commissioner.
Okay.
So they worked with the Players Association. These are people like Core JJ and stuff. They're like, so they basically sat down with Riot and this is that these are all the problems with solo queue. He could just be a PR mouthpiece here, but I'm just going to repeat that. The problem with solo queue is too many trolls, one tricks, and there's no voice comms. Okay. So Curtis is already smiling because we know we're going to be going here.
It's interesting.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Definitely interesting.
It's very interesting, right? That they're going to have more control over it. So they're going to be able to allow players, to come in. So let's say if you're a one trick, right? They won't let you in basically.
Okay.
So you have to follow a rule. They have a rule to get into scouting grounds and stuff where it's you can't have more than 30% of your games on one champ.
Okay. So so just a few more logistical questions about Champions Queue. Is it in the same client or is it more like a tournament realm type thing?
I believe it's tournament realm, right?
Okay.
And it's going to be some Discord server bot, right?
Right.
That's going to create some queue system. Okay, Curtis, I know we're getting there, right?
Okay.
We're shaking our hands. This podcast is probably going to be a lot about this.
Okay.
Because we got a lot to dive into here.
Okay. So if people aren't interested in this, they can just tune out.
Yeah, well, I think you should still listen because I want to again approach this from
The psychology.
the psychology of players,
and
even
how people
pro
are
players,
viewing solo queue.
how people are viewing solo queue and what improvement looks like in the
Right.
process,
Okay.
right? And again, how I said at the beginning, talent versus hard work, right?
Okay.
The interesting thing, he said that there will be some sort of incentive they might do. So actually, not might they is, but they aren't going to release. They haven't told us what it is right now. So this could be maybe I'm thinking some cash prize. Obviously, we challenger jackets back in the day, but that probably won't be. It has to.
We used to talk about that, right? How cash prizes would have sold.
Yeah.
We're thinking about implementing it into O solo queue, where whoever got rank 1 got 10 grand or something like that for coming rank 1. I like the idea of it.
So they're going to have an incentive.
Right? Okay.
So the key thing is that they said that this is not going to be a replacement for solo queue. So essentially what they're going to do is they can open it up at certain times of the week. But they don't want it to be a replacement. They don't want it to be a situation where all the pro players have left the normal NA solo queue and then they're not just playing this all day. So that's a key thing to mention there. So that it's not going to be a replacement for the NA solo queue high elo, okay?
Okay. Bloody hell.
All right. So essentially they want to create a better solo queue environment that's more controlled and they can get rid of all the negative and bad people so they only have the best, perfect, beautiful, outstanding people in the ladder, okay? Let me just double check my notes to make sure I've covered all the basis. So he repeated many times it's going to be a closed, serious practice environment. All right, that's all my facts. All right, so...
how do we tackle this? Where do we start?
Where should we start?
There's a lot here.
Okay, there's a lot here. Okay, so I want to start with my biggest concern for it, and we can go over it. And Will literally messaged me saying that this is in it, so it's going to fail instantly.
Okay.
Voice comms.
And you have to be a part of the voice comms.
You have to be. You have to join voice comms if you're going to be playing Champions Queue. Because I think that so many things delve off of this. You know what I mean, Curtis?
Wait, but I think let's.
Do you want to start there? You don't want to start there.
No, okay, we'll start there. But
Okay.
one little note, the way this entire thing, and have you pulled the language? You kind of use the language from the commissioner, right?
Purely from the commissioner, yeah.
It's interesting because I'm looking. If it sounds like a political regime, like a communist. It's we're gonna get rid of the bad, and then cull all the bad, and only it's turning into some They're trying to create some utopia where everything is sunshine and rainbows, and it's gonna be this beautiful little sanctuary of improvement.
That's your first
vibe.
impression.
That's my impression.
Yeah.
It
I would agree.
seems
When listening to that,
very
that's what
detached from reality and completely missing the mark in terms of human psychology and how people interact. It seems way too utopian. It seems very strange to me. and detached from reality. I mean, there's so much to talk about here, but continue on. That was just more like the vibe I got like listening to this.
I agree. All right, so voice comms. So, voice comms. So, we talk a lot about like Clash and being, like in Clash teams and stuff like that, right? So, there's like, when you're playing a game, let's do a story. Let's start with a story, okay? When you're like playing like a game, right? And, we're like in a Clash game, it's just like 100% over, Like let's say you like screw up some skirmish or whatever, or let's say you like actually like lose the game for your team. You're sort of like, you're still trying to like win the game and stuff, but you sort of like know that you've sort of lost the game for your team.
Okay.
Like,
so is that by like you just got solo killed like 2 times, you died to 2 ganks, or like you're a jungler and you failed to dive or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're sort of like forced to sit there and talk with other people and like try and work out how to win the game with like people, but you yourself, you don't feel. Especially, I mean, again, this is like more of a team thing, but I'm just trying to think of it in terms of solo queue mindset. Like, I just want to like int in peace. This is what I like. What I'm trying to say is that in terms of like me playing a solo queue game, if I was on comms with my team and the game's just over, you're forced to stay in comms for the next 15-20 minutes, right? I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, we can come here and we can like, try and like figure out the game. Like, that stuff is not for solo queue. That is for scrims. Right? That's for you working out stuff with your team.
Long term.
Yep. Right? I think it's so flawed to have this in any sort of solo queue or people that aren't your actual teammates. Because I just want to like...
So you're saying that you're saying because you're forced to be on comms, you're going to be less incentivized to do something risky because you know that if you mess it up, you're going to be stuck in comms? Or is it more that
could be an element? That's not my approach at all. My approach is literally like we did something, it's just like it was a really close fight. It's a good decision for both teams. It's just going to be a mechanical thing. We sort of like lost us the game here. Like let's say I fucked up like a flash.
Sometimes there's nothing to be said.
There's nothing to be said,
and
right?
and saying something is only going to be detrimental.
That's correct.
Right.
And you sort of want to just like the improvement solo queue, like actual like improvement, it's a very private and personal thing, I feel.
Okay.
Like especially like when you have like days where you're off and on and when you're like you're trying to work out, you got to learn objective, but people are maybe like in your ear like saying we still gotta win the game, but it's sort of like you sort of want to think about that situation during the game even though the game's like lost.
Right.
Like,
okay.
Like again, like I feel like that the actual, if you think, everyone that got good at the game, that it was a personal and private thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right? The solo queue environment is you queue up, let's say, you're listening to some playlist, some song, you queue up, some people play with music, some people don't, and then they just like in the zone, they just get in the zone and they just adapt into the game themselves and collecting the information themselves and focusing on themselves. It's that's why it is called ranked solo, right?
Okay, let's take a step back here. I'm going to use an analogy to help describe why I feel a little bit uncomfortable about comms. You know that sport where everyone's in a canoe? It's like the Olympic sport and they're all like rowing and you've got like kind of like 5 people in this like boat and then you've got like one person on each side and there's like kind of like a person in the back kind of like calling like the timing or something like that. You kind of, when you're walking on the river, the Yarra River, you can kind of like hear them and see them sometimes. And I always think if they input someone new onto this team, say someone just they weren't able to keep up with the pace or like they weren't as strong as they were used to, because I'm assuming you would have to have like the strength of the pace down pat, or maybe they weren't used to training with these sorts of people, or I don't know. I always thought that if you replace someone, how efficient would they be and how long would it take for that person to get integrated into that kind of team? And whenever I think of solo queue, I always think of like you're in a rowboat for like 30 seconds and then someone else now jumps in, you rotate out. And then if you're on comms, it's going to take you a game. It's going to take you multiple games just to kind of get used to how that person is talking and what they want and how they talk. And there is so many complexities. And this is rowing is, I'm assuming a lot more. I mean, it just is objectively more simplified than League of Legends. Obviously there's way more variables in League to consider. So in League, comms is a very personal thing in the sense that not everyone communicates in the same way and not everyone views the game in the same way.
That's right.
So when and when you're communicating in a competitive environment, we're not even taking into account tone and the language used. So we learn a lot about this with Jono, for example, right? So let's just say you're the jungler, Nathan, and you go topside, and then you're like kind of pathing bot to top, and then your jungler says, my wave is doomed. Now, you might have been on a team with someone when they say that exact sentence, but they don't really need you to help. Like, they kind of maybe just want you to, like, they just saying it out loud because they have a habit of saying it. They might say it because they just want to let you know their wave's screwed. They don't actually want your help. They'd maybe just want you to hover or something. My wave is doomed for someone else might mean you need to come here immediately, like, as in right now. And notice how words don't, in League, in communication, don't have an objective meaning. It can be one, like, all this language, gamer language, can mean very different things. So, for example, I'm screwed might mean, does that mean you're going to be down a level? Does it mean you're going to get dove? Does it mean you can't farm? Does it mean you just got to sit under tower?
Yeah.
What does I'm screwed actually mean? Yeah. So what
and
happens,
that's
going to distort your jungler's view of the game in, game out. So not only are you going to play one, it's not like you're going to play one game, then relax and piss off. You're going to play multiple games with, I'm assuming, with multiple people, because it's solo queue. You're playing with different people every game, right? So you're going to get so overwhelmed with information. Or then you might even have a top laner that's mute one game, and in your experience playing with a muted top laner means they're tilted, but maybe they're not tilted. And that you might just start to get anxiety thinking, oh my God, is my top laner tilted? Is he angry at me?
Yeah.
Like there's
so many extra things.
There is so many extra complexities
There's
at play.
social dynamics at play, isn't there?
Social dynamics at play. And this is the thing you also got to remember is that these people all know each other and they care about their opinion of each other, because a lot of these players, they want to impress each other
to get on a new team in
the future.
Yeah, that's
right? So I can't even begin to fathom how much is going to be going through the mind, especially of a jungler.
Okay, another specific situation. I actually think I want to make a video on this, right? In terms of just breaking people's narratives of what they think a jungler's meant to do, right? If in that situation, let's say if that person says their wave's doomed, right? There's a huge difference in terms of a jungler, right? Getting that information in that moment versus I can see that he's going to be doomed in 40 seconds and then I path accordingly to that. The two differences in those is game changing and game winning, right? A jungler, the moment a jungler reacts to information that he didn't process 30, 40 seconds beforehand, you are always on the back foot.
And I always think it's that exact scenario. You remember Schönfire and Chippies in even started 2018, 2017. Schön created his paths knowing how Chippies was going to play every single game. Like, he knew that Chippies wasn't going to not heavy trade in this matchup, and he knew that he was going to be shoving. So Schön, he kind of knew in advance what was likely going to happen
with that
player. Like, he would have to alter the way he's playing based off that's being Chippies.
Yeah.
But that's a very different game of League of Legends. And you can get used to playing with that sort of player. But and yeah, so I think you're spot on, Nathan. Comms.
And that's part of your job as a jungler. Like, good junglers, right? They have to have all the information themselves. Like if I'm relying on someone to tell me some piece of information, timing flashes and stuff, like, that's maybe helpful. There is an element to it that's important, but in terms of solo queue improvement, you need to have the game understanding yourself, because you need to know whether someone's screwed or not before they get screwed. Yeah? Huge difference in terms of your gameplay. And comms doesn't help that. It actually makes it worse by far as a jungler.
And adding on to this, just another layer of complexity when it comes to comms, you might even be maybe the team that you play on has a particular way of comming. Like, say in your competitive team, right? Like, say you play for, Liquid, and they have like a particular way of comming, and then you go into this champions queue and everyone's comming all over the place. It's not even just going to be worse. It's going to be potentially detrimental to how you play with your scrims, like when your real scrims, because you're getting two different types of communication. And the other thing as well, and it's tying back more to the social aspect of comms. Imagine, like, everyone's just expecting everyone to be happy chappy. That will be like the honeymoon period will last like a week.
The competitiveness of these players. If I'm like, even when I'm playing with you, I get pissed at you, dude. And we know each other really well.
We've known each other for like 8 years or something, and we're toxic in a way. If you're on the outside, I can't even imagine what it would be like. Say for example, let's just put a jungler out there. Some junglers in Champions queue. Say Will, for example, is in Champions queue. there's a chance that he has to comm with a player on his team that he just doesn't like.
Yeah.
Not everyone likes
That's
each
right,
other.
yeah.
There's a lot of like rivalries.
As there should be. It's a competitive
As it should
competition.
be. And you have to comm with someone that doesn't even like you. And then imagine if like you get popped onto the same team as them the next game. Like you think it's gonna be awkward mute all. Like you know how many arguments are probably gonna happen on voice comms and how many breakup disputes. It's gonna be a shit show. And we already know that the level of maturity across the board in the LCS from the personalities is already incredibly low. I mean, if it's coming from the owners, aka Reginald, you can only expect it to happen with the players, right? Like, so I don't get the utopia is going to get thrown out the window in the shortest possible period. Even with that, even just with comms, we're not even
That's
talking
what I'm
about
saying.
anything.
Just comms alone.
Just comms
That's why
alone.
I said the moment I heard that, it will 100%
Comms should never ever be a thing. And this also ties to, I think, a fundamental difference with me and Nathan, the way we view the game is that I don't really view League as a team game.
Yeah, it's not. No.
It's just not a team game. Like it's like at the highest level it is. It is.
But in terms of the improvement process,
But the improvement, it is not
individual
team,
based.
It's individual based up until the highest level.
Yeah.
And I actually, funnily enough, I actually watched there's an EDG documentary. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
So recently got released. There's a documentary, I think it's made by the LPL, following EDG's journey through the LPL. And it kind of talks how like when the team first formed, it was really brutal. Like they didn't get along at all. Like the players had different views of the games. Like I think the support and the top laner were very like fiery, or like the Flandre who was like really, he had a very unique, he was a perfectionist. Kind of reminded me of like a Richard Sue type thing. Like, he was like that. And it didn't click, didn't resonate with certain players. And they actually just were playing worse. Like they, as individuals, everyone's view of the game is opposed. It takes months to build that. It takes months and months and months. Whereas, like you said, if you're in a way playing with these players mute or like private, you're in your own little bubble. You don't have to interact. You don't have that conflict is just kind of maintained. In a way, no comms is less toxic than comms because
it is, yeah.
Because you're not forced to interact with the other person. And you shouldn't be forced to interact with the other people around you because
I have a learning objective. I don't want to go into the review after looking at some team fight. I already know where I lost the game, you know? Like, I don't want to talk.
And I don't want to have to explain to this guy.
I don't want to. I do not want to.
And I don't want
to.
Yeah, I don't want to have to explain to this guy how I view the game anyway, because I'm probably versing him in the LCS next week.
That's right.
What?
It is.
Why would I want to tell this guy my view on the game and how I like to play my champion? I don't want to tell anyone the way I interpret my champion's identity, because I could be whipping this out in my competitive game next week.
There's a great quote from Meditations I highlighted, actually. Marcus Aurelius, the book we read in our book club. Let people's mistakes be their mistakes, yeah? Like, let's say you don't agree with someone's... Like, let their mistakes... They're going to get their results. Like, let them be them, you know? Let me be me. Let me make my own mistakes, you know? Obviously, League, you know, people get tilted because they're like, you know, this guy's sabotaging my journey, but... everyone's sabotaging each other 24/7. It's all going to net out at the end.
If everyone's making mistakes, I mean, inherently everyone is sabotaging someone else's game
That's
at
right.
some point.
Yeah.
That's just part of playing a complex, incredibly difficult game.
That's the nature of League of Legends.
That's the nature of League of Legends. That's what makes it fun. If everyone was playing perfect League of Legends, it wouldn't be a fun game. It'd be too easy. Is there anything else on voice comms that we should touch on?
The other thing as well is that it will create some form of social dynamic in terms of like cool boys group.
Yeah. Oh.
So imagine like the LCS players, like I mean, we already know. I mean, you know, back in our Darwell's days, you know, the top three teams, they all had like a certain respect for each other, all buddy. The bottom teams, you think we like cared or talked to them, or a cool group will always be formed. That's just the nature.
That's
of
just the nature. And the what are they called? Like the alpha males of the group. They're always going to dominate. Whenever there's a group, there's always going to be a leader. There's always going to be like the elite of a group, no matter what.
Yep.
And they're going to dictate the culture regardless.
Correct.
And then what it's going to be, it's just going to be a circle jerk around the top people. And if you have to please them, and then everyone's going to play in accordance to those players.
And then they're not improving themselves.
No, they're not improving themselves.
And then they'll probably just fuck off and play normal solo queues.
Because they want their respect. They want Killjoy, Jay's or Double Lift or Bjergsen's respect. Everyone's going to want to play towards Bjergsen.
Yep.
Regardless, even if they don't want to and they never intended to, just by social dynamics, they're going to be drawn towards that or listening to that guy's voice. And whenever you're listening to someone else's call, you're not taking responsibility and you're not fundamentally improving at the game, because how do you improve at the game? you make a call or you make a decision, you look at the outcome of that decision, and then you review it and learn after. But if you're constantly following other people's calls, you're getting less learning. So fundamentally, when you're playing solo queue, you're actually permanently forced to make your own decisions.
Correct.
If you want to climb and be a better player.
Yes. You have to adapt to the game.
You have to adapt to the game and make your own decisions according to what you see.
Yeah.
You're not listening to anyone else's. I mean, sometimes someone else might. It's rare that someone makes a call, but if someone makes a call, but that's very limited. It's very, very, very minimal calls made that you listen to, and the best players are those people.
Flipping it as well to people like, the legends that also like Bjergsen, let's say Blippo coming over.
Yep.
I wouldn't even want, if I'm them, I don't want the expectation. People are going to think they're going to expect them to like lead them in these games and stuff. Like, I don't fucking want that when I'm like, again, I want to be private even if I'm Bjergsen, like, there's actually a great, there was like this Reddit thread or something, people like showing Bjergsen's like accounting career, and it looks like, I think there's like a video of Cagel going over it, and like, I think he was playing Action, he had like all these defeats, and people were like, oh, he's, Bjergsen must be trash. Like, that's a personal, he's trying out thing, it's not working, like, and everyone's judging his solo queue when he's coming back, and obviously he's in the public eye, but again, people just don't grasp solo queue. People think that you're either good or you're shit. That's that underlying thing that no one can deny is the underlying thing in video games and League of Legends in general. There's no such thing as an improvement process in people's minds. And I saw it exactly with that post. I was like, even the way Cagel pointed it out, he was sort of like, he's not performing. He's not the Bjergsen, he's not God, like winning like every game. It's like, but he's learning action. It's not working. Like, he'll click, eventually. Maybe he'll just ditch it.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, let's do the flip side then. If it were to work out in a very like utopian universe, it would be everyone is very quiet and there's very little comms and everyone is only sharing necessary information. That would be like best case scenario. In a way that could technically...
Still doesn't work, Curtis, because there's going to be conversations like before champs select in LOL states. It's like, oh, what did you do today?
Probably turns into memes as well.
Yeah,
eventually,
memes,
whether it's not at the start, eventually down the line it will deteriorate.
Social dynamics are at play. Someone's friends with each other.
Yeah. Someone's friends with each other and they start memeing and they start giggling. And you hear, as soon as you, and this is dead set. This is I can't wait to share this. Steven Ader brought. He said he was like playing bad in scrims, right? He bought two scrim VODs. Yeah. To a review, and I reviewed these two scrim VODs of his, right? And I was listening because he had the comms on it, and I heard in loading screen they were giggling and laughing, and I already said I can tell that your entire team's going to play terrible from the loading screen. I don't even have to watch this game.
Perfect.
And it's like just basic mistakes. Top laner shoves out when he's on weak side of the map and gets ganked at level 3 and blows flash. Like, that's just like a gold mistake, dude. You're in like...
So what are we talking? Grandmaster?
Yeah, this is like Master, Grandmaster average, And like, they're like all laughing and giggling and talking about like just memeing and shit. And it's like, this is not how you want to improve. And I told him like, the reason he's playing worse in scrims and getting worse is because he's feeling like he has to be a leader and kind of like make calls and stuff. And he's playing worse in division and not improving. Like I told him, dead set. I told him time and time again. Tell your team to shut the fuck up and no one talk and only say things that need to be said. And if someone makes a call, you say yes or no, move on. Like comms are one of the most misunderstood things in competitive play, in league in general, actually. It's one of the most misunderstood things.
It is. Well, I feel like we're in the Stone Ages when it comes to that.
We're beyond that. We're like we're probably like before that. We're like cave drawings. Yeah. We're like not even talking. There's no communication.
Yeah.
So I want to actually explain why we're in the Stone Ages, though. This is very important.
Okay.
It's my theory.
Yep.
We have theories about like ancient civilizations and like how the pyramids were built and like how the Stonehenge was formed. This is like my theory about why comms are not good in League.
Yeah.
There was a generation of original coaches in the game that were very detached from what it took to be good at League of Legends. So what happened, I think between seasons 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, there was like these original coaches that weren't actually high elo at the game because high elo coaches didn't really exist for a while, for a long time. Yeah. And so what we actually got...
I mean, coaches didn't exist.
They just didn't exist, right? So what we actually got is that when the first generation of coaches that came in that kind of sounded smart, that were like, oh my God, this sounds more than just like kill this guy, just the next level of advancement. Everyone kind of took it for gospel because they didn't know better. So then what happened, they became like the norm. Like this became like the norm of what comms like meant to be, which was, calling targets, having a quote unquote shot caller.
It's very easy in League as well to point everything out. So you didn't say this. That's why it was an error.
Right.
That's so easy to do.
It's the easiest. Yeah, you're right. It's the best scapegoat for an issue, especially as a coach, right?
Yeah.
A coach that doesn't have a sophisticated amount of game knowledge, what's the easiest thing they can say that can quote unquote provide value and make themselves look good? You guys should have commed this here. Therefore this wouldn't have happened.
Correct.
They don't talk about how they would have said, what are the signs to even communicate that? How could they pull that out of their ass? Like, how are they even coming to terms with saying that exact thing in that moment? They're not even the coaches don't understand that their players' mental stacks are completely overwhelmed thinking about all these other things. It's completely detached from reality, right? So what happens, they became like a meta of comms. Now that's
when you had like, everyone was hailing like, the C9 High, he was the shot call comm guy, and then everyone was trying to follow that.
That got pushed as well as a social narrative, of like a cultural narrative, like High the shot caller, that's why he's so good, blah, 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 blah. So this got reinforced not only by coaching staff, management probably liked it because it looked cool to investors. Look at our sophisticated comms and structure and all that crap. And then also comms became like sounds of the game. Like that was like, again, a cultural thing from a content perspective. It was all reinforced together. Now it's like a stronghold of like crap that has just been built up over time. And now what happens, if anyone has a contrarian view when it comes to comms, you have to dig through this huge mountain of like crap that's just sitting here.
Narratives that people have.
And the narratives are so strong. And this is the thing as well, is that the coaches teach other coaches, like the coaches that looked up to those coaches are taught the same crap. So it's like a constant cycle of, it's like the curriculum of what you're learning is just wrong from the get-go. And so this has infected the players that have been playing the game for a long time. And slowly but surely players are slowly probably starting to figure it out. But, it just hasn't got there yet. It hasn't gotten there yet because they're not focused on comms. Like their job is to get better at the game. They're not really thinking about comms. That's not their job.
Yeah, they don't think about that.
And so slowly we're probably starting to see a little bit more sophistication. But even if the players did have a better understanding of what comms should be, they're not going to share that advice with other people in Champions Queue regardless. So the comms are going to default to whatever people can do with the lowest amount of mental stacks, which is just going to be turning into a shit show.
Yeah.
So that's another whole thing and why I think we're so prehistoric when it comes to comms.
And it's fascinating to me, again, just thinking about, this is not just Riot. This is not all these executives going around, how do we fix NA solo? They consulted with the best players in NA. The core JJs of the world, the people saying that he's like the in-house guy. It's crazy to me that that's something that they've pushed.
Right.
Like what does that mean in terms of the perception of like pro players, high-low players? Like they're so I feel like they're very disconnected from how people get good at the game because core JJ is a world champ.
Well, he can't even exactly.
He can't even relate to someone like Will who's come up by himself in solo queue.
You shouldn't ever ask the best players to how to improve solo queue. It should always actually come from the up and coming academy and like amateur players. Yeah, they're the people you should consult because they're constantly trying to grind.
Yeah. And what's holding them back, they think.
Yeah, what's holding them back? They're the players you should ask. But even then, like, I just don't even think that the players themselves have the level of sophistication to understand how to solve such a complex problem. No. Like, it's an incredibly complicated... Like, when we're talking about improving solo queue, this is, there is so many variables at play here. Social, cultural, regional. I mean, there is so many ping, hardware, software. Like, there are so many aspects at play here that a 17-year-old solo queue player is not going to be able to give you.
They won't have the answer.
They won't have the answer. They'll have a really rough theory, but it's going to be completely biased towards like what they want, their experience and what they want. They're not thinking of the greater good. No. And if they think they're thinking about the greater good, they're not.
No,
I mean, they couldn't. They wouldn't have the ability to think about the greater good at that age. So I don't. So, like, look, I respect the effort from the likes of Core JJ and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to preface this saying that it's great that Riot are working with the players and that they've actually got a solution. So, I mean, my prediction is just going to fail, collapse.
But they're having a crack. They are having a crack. Even though I think it's detrimental and going to make it worse. It's not just going to be new, it's going to be worse.
Go back to the drawing board.
They're going to go back to the drawing board. It's inevitably going to fail in like a very short period of time, and then they'll kind of scrap it, and But yeah, you're right. I think it's good that they are having the discussion.
And they're literally taking action and trying.
They're taking action. There's something being done about it for sure. And it was funny, we spoke to some of the OS coaches who work in NA recently at a bar. They came to visit family. I won't name names, but one of the OS coaches is working for an NA organization at the moment. We're talking about NA solo queue. I said, look, man, NA solo queue it's not the best to him. And he's saying, because he came from OS, it'd be interesting to get his take on it, right? What's your take on it? Now you've been over there, you've come from OS. And he says, Curtis, if I can reach the elo that I got in NA, it's not a good sign. Like, this is an old school player who is still getting high elo in NA, that doesn't really take solo queue that seriously, doesn't have a process, kind of just playing to play, and is still getting relative to high elo. He says, if I'm still getting the rank that I am doing what I'm doing now, it's not a good sign to say that. So let me just say that. And so, look, I think there is something that needs to be done. So I want to, again, preface that as well. There is something that needs to be done. The fact that it's even in his terms comparable to OS is incredibly concerning. It makes no sense for it to be even remotely comparable to OS when it is coming from him, from somebody who's played in OS for years and years and years, moved to NA for 2 years now. So definitely concerning. So moving on, we've touched on the comms.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's plenty more to even touch on comms, but I think we should move on from that. And I think we should even do. I said this at one time. We got to do an entire episode on comms.
Yeah.
Like a comms episode.
Yeah.
And go in depth about what our solutions would. What would great comms look like? How you would go about it if you played Clash or at a competitive team. What we believe comms should look like, and how you would learn it. We'll do that another time, because we can speak about comms for hours and hours on end.
All right. So going back to his quotes,
I want to talk about the He said he spoke about trolls and one tricks.
Yeah. So they want to get rid of trolls and one tricks. Quote.
Okay. Let's talk about the troll. So what exactly is a troll? Let's just break this down. What is a troll, Nathan? In high elo. So they're talking about high elo, right? So there's high elo trolls apparently. So that means that means you can be a troll and be high elo.
Yep.
Right? That's proven apparently.
Okay, so I mean, I would think it is someone who pops into a champ select who is autofill. They don't want to dodge, so like they will hold the champ select hostage. I think that's
right, and they'll
thing.
like pick Nunu and say, if you don't dodge, and I'm gonna lose the game for the team.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a troll.
I think so. Yeah. What else?
Okay, let me name. Okay, let's say there's these people that are actively trolling pro players that they don't like. I don't know if this exists. Let's say that they do. Like, people holding lobbies hostage. Let's call them the troll. People AFKing because even if this is the case, let's say.
Okay, yeah, someone AFKing who has a bad early game.
Okay, let's just say that.
Yeah.
There's a very simple solution. We've said this before. It would take one person watching NA solo queue that has the power to ban people. One. You pay them a 60,000, 50,000 salary to sit there and watch solo queue 8 hours a day. Within 2 months, you would have next to no trolls. I could basically guarantee you. You could hire them as a contractor, pay them for 2 months. And then don't tell them that they've gone, pretend that they're still there. That would instill fear in the entire high elo community.
Isn't that a dictatorship though, Curtis? Who decides what's bad and what's not? You'd have to have guidelines.
Yeah, you would have guidelines. If someone is actively, you would have to show evidence for someone holding a lobby hostage. I mean, I don't even think it's that complicated. You wouldn't do the very fringe cases where you wouldn't do the people, these people got into a discussion and he called me this.
Yeah, that's
wouldn't
fine.
be that. It would be actively, running it down, actively picking Nunu with ghost clans, actively, it's so simple. You don't have to have a sophisticated fucking solution for someone trolling. It's so simple to me. With the billions of dollars that Riot make, right? They make millions of dollars a year. Surely they can spend the $50,000 for a year to do that. It's really not hard. So I think that you don't have to create a whole new rank system
Yeah.
just to get rid of the trolls.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's step number one, right? Then there was the one tricks. This is an interesting one.
So they want to get rid of one tricks.
So what are your thoughts on one tricks, Nathan?
Well, they're damn good at their champions.
They are good.
They could play very annoying champions that definitely get rewarded for solo queue. Like in certain games, it sort of make the game really annoying. Like, I mean, let's say there's like a Yumi one trick, right? Like that's pretty frustrating, to be honest. But I mean, like, you know, like at the end of the day, there's counterplay to it.
Yeah,
you know,
like
and it's fine.
I think I think the main issue when it comes to one tricks has to be if they're banned.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they get. That's right. So it's
That's
like
the main issue, isn't it?
they pop into the thing, and then that champ gets banned.
There's a Yumi one trick,
and
then
they'll
Yumi's
still
banned.
play it out. I mean, you could sort of class that as a troll in a way. In a way, can't you? Can you?
No,
Or-
because they'll just play a champ that they're not good at
Okay,
and just
yeah.
die, but they're
Yeah.
genuinely trying.
They're still trying. Yeah.
So, like, didn't they say they were doing that whole, we spoke about that, the ranked private profile? Maybe there was a thing in play where, like, if you're Master Plus and you have, it's like automated, if you have 70% of your games played on one or more, on one champion, you have to, it automatically puts your profile onto, like, private or something like that. Like, I'm sure there's a system that they could work out like that would automatically privatize your account, and then people wouldn't know that you're in queue or not. People wouldn't know that they could ban you. But even then, think about it. Like, they would play one game, you get into the next game, and then they'll ban it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is probably one of the big things for Champions Queue in a way. I would say that's one of the pros.
That's a pro.
That's a
yeah.
pro.
I agree.
I would say that's a pro. It's not even the fact that there's nothing wrong with one tricks. It's that they get banned out. That's the main
That's
thing.
the right. Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah. I mean, let's note that down. That's a positive for Champions Queue for sure.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, Nathan, the effect that this would have on solo queue for NA across the board, like talent development.
Yep.
Right?
That's a great way to go. Yep.
So let's say there's a separate, they said there's going to be the Champions Queue,
That's open on certain times.
certain times, whatever that may mean. So whether it's after scrims or something like that. I still don't get how that's going to work, how it can be open at certain times. Like, they're either going to play it or you're not. Like, I don't see how you could do both.
Well, the idea is that everyone's still... So they still want players to be playing the solo queue, the pro players and stuff, the NA solo queue.
But how would they do that? They would only play it for like an hour or two.
Yeah, and then they go back to normal solo queue.
It's so much effort for such little value.
Well, people think that this is a huge value, right?
So they get 2 games in and then they have to go back to normal solo queue.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's enough games to really make meaningful change, even if you get 1 or 2 or a block of...
Yeah, you're probably right, yeah.
I mean, even
The amazing thing about solo queue, right? Let's say the pinnacle of solo queue, like we go over and play Korean solo queue. You can queue up at 6 a.m., get a game super quick, and like people can queue up at any time. They don't have to worry about the logistics in terms of like who's available, what times it opening.
Yep.
You're
Just
literally
in, you're
just in and you can be practicing. That is the beauty of the solo queue system. It's you know, it has its flaws, but fundamentally the MMR system is just beautiful. It's
beautiful.
fantastic.
Well, it's a meritocracy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a meritocracy.
Yep.
If you're good at the game,
Yep.
and you know how to kill the nexus, you're going to be high. Doesn't matter what champion
You're
you're
gonna
at.
get
If
to
you
the top of
know,
the ladder.
you're going to get to the top of the ladder no matter what.
Yep.
Over a large amount of sample size, obviously, it's a meritocracy.
And this Champions Queue isn't, is it?
No.
It's a dictatorship in a way,
Yeah,
isn't
it's a dictatorship. It's not really. It's removing things that are chaotic in a way.
And chaos is so important for solo queue, and it's so important. Like, you know, one tricks people banning, like these are all things you got to adapt to.
Well, in a way, in Korea, like they don't like ban. I swear they don't ban, because I watch like Z. Like when you watch Z99,
Yeah.
like, he gets Z all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like no
isn't
one
it?
just bans it. Like
No.
even when they're on these friends lists and shit like that.
interesting.
Like, you just verse it. You know, you just verse it. People want to verse his best champion. They don't want to verse him on his second champ. And also the other thing as well, the good thing about when you're versing random one tricks, you find out interesting things. Like,
Yeah.
remember we have that saying, if something's annoying, it means it's good usually a lot of the time. So you might verse some Alawi player and like, oh shit, this is actually pretty good. Like rather than hating on him, just like verse it. And if he beats you, okay, oh, maybe I should experiment with this. Or okay, maybe I need to find a new champ that can deal with that champion. You know, there's always like different ways to deal with it. But look, tying back to like the effect on the other solo queue, let's say Champions queue. I don't really know. We don't know the schedule, what it's going to be like. But surely that's going to be demotivating for all the other people that aren't in Champions queue.
Yeah, that's right.
Wouldn't it? Like, imagine you're an up and coming 15-year-old kid. You're like D1 master tier, and you really want to like get good.
Well, I guess the idea is that you would have to get super high on the ladder first, and then you get accepted into Champions queue, which is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. So in a way, you're saying that it could theoretically motivate people because they want to get high enough elo to get to that.
Yeah. I've had some of my high elo people when Champions go announced, I want to get in there. I want to get in there.
Right. Okay. But then how would it be any really different? The only thing you're removing is one tricks. It's the only thing you're removing.
Yeah, but you're adding voice comms, guys.
And you're adding voice comms.
And you get rid of the trolls and griefers.
It would be interesting. I don't think we can know really what the effect on the actual solo queue would be.
I agree.
It's hard to know. I think we'd have to wait and see until like it got released to see how it would affect the actual solo queue.
Yeah.
Man, what a shame for the one tricks though. What else? What else can we riff off? What else is there? Is there anything we haven't touched on? Any other angles?
Those are the main things. Again, there's Chris Greenlee constantly quoted saying it's going to be a more serious solo queue environment to help improvement. So it is designed for improvement.
Right.
But our angle is saying that we think that there's no improvement going to go on here. You might as well just scrim.
I mean, yeah, either scrim or just play solo queue and find a way to deal with the one tricks and the trolls, a more intuitive way. But maybe this is it. Maybe this is their solution. If they did the Champions queue without comms, it would be all right.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, it'd actually be all right. Like it would have a place. You remove the comms and make it like on a tournament realm, like no Discord, like a just pure. Like
you just queue up and then like as normal.
It would be, so the way I would imagine it, it's kind of like a Chinese super server. It's just like another server, like you have an account for, and then you log in onto it. No comms, no dueling. Even make it that you don't even have a friends list, so you just got to queue up. You play, you don't know who's in queue, and you open it to all amateur, academy, and pro players. So there'd be like a few hundred people on it. Boom.
Yeah, Curtis, that's not enough people to have a constant flow of games.
It would have to be, between like maybe like 5 p.m. and midnight.
So you do still set the time.
You'd set the time, but there would be like, in a way though, you wouldn't want those players to play the other solo queue though. Like that would be the server, that would be the rank. So it's like the Chinese that you don't play the Chinese super server and another server. You would only play Champions queue. That would be a separate server.
Yeah,
in a way, a tournament realm type thing, and then you play that. That would be I think that would work. That would genuinely work.
And you have certain times.
You have certain times, so it's open from 5 p.m. to midnight or 5 p.m. to 2 a.m., whatever it is. And you have to fill out a certain criteria. Like you said, you've got to have a champ pool of greater than X amount of champs. There's obviously no one tricks, no trolls, no comms. Boom. That would be great. It'd just be a different server. It'd just be essentially like a different server, a more intense server. Oh, the other criticism was that just because it's on the West Coast, for people on the East Coast, they get screwed, right? That's the other criticism as well.
Yeah.
Which kind of breaks the entire thing.
Yeah.
Because you only get half of the country.
Yeah.
But you're saying that, I mean, there's plenty of other good players that aren't in a pro team that are high elo that are potentially good that just going to get gated by that.
Correct.
Which is a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could theoretically be kind of lowering your sample size of great players.
Yeah.
That's something we didn't even talk about. I don't really know how they would overcome that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think there could be lots of effects that we don't know yet, you know? It's sort of like...
yeah.
It's sort of like they're creating some sort of like medicine and like they're testing it out. They don't really know. They're like...
So you're going to tell your Soul 2 members to join Champions Queue?
Yeah, the ones that can make it in.
You want
to... for sure.
Even though there's comms? I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be. I try it out eventually, but I know it's going to be bad in the long run. I mean, again, there's no improvement.
No, I just don't. No, you'll get worse.
You get worse. Yeah,
I genuinely think you'll get worse.
Yeah.
I think it would be a detriment. I can't even imagine. Like I'm thinking, like some of my high-low clients, like Stephen Ada, he's a mess on comms, dude. Just, get him out of that one.
Yeah.
Like all those players
you're
would be
right.
worse.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, I would recommend away from it. I agree. Yeah. There's no improvement happening.
There's
there.
no improvement happening there.
It's like, again, like the reason I said they would try that because it is the cool, sexy thing. Again, you're gonna be in the cool kids
But it won't
club.
last. I mean, I'll just ride out the fad.
Yeah.
Unless they remove comms, and then you can kind of weasel back in there. But we'll see, right? Again,
So I guess the
we'll
key
see.
thing, the biggest thing was just like I wanted to break down the mindset. Why, for some reason, the Players Association, people like Core JJ, the top players, why they think a serious practice solo queue improvement environment requires voice comms. That's the thing that I'm
key
trying
thing.
to. That's the disconnect I'm trying to figure out. Like what's going on there.
I could see Core JJ wanting that because he's a support. In bot lane, I could see it being pretty relevant.
Yeah.
Because when you're coming with an AD carry, it does make things nicer.
I don't know. I don't play support.
Because if you think about it, right? If you're playing support, you would get better practice coming with your AD carry because that would be more realistic
This is true.
to what an actual
Yeah.
competitive game would look like.
I
Because
think
you said we're going to all in on that minion or like, shove this way. I want to shove this. Like it would just make things easier. If you're in a bot lane, I think it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So from Core JJ's lens and his worldview, for him specifically, I think it is beneficial.
I can tell you from a jungler perspective.
From a jungle and
Get
mid,
out of here, dude.
mid and
I don't wanna
jungle,
hear you.
no.
No.
Top, no.
No.
So the entire top side of the map, I
Yeah.
can't really see it, but I can
Yeah.
definitely see it from bot side.
Okay.
80 carry and support,
Yep.
benefit 80 carry and supports.
Yep.
Because in a way, then you're going back to duo, and it's all 80 carries and supports want a duo. They love duoing.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make a lot of sense. And I'm assuming Core JJ has a lot of weight when it comes to the future of NA solo queue because he's the big dick player, the rank 1.
That's right.
So that would also probably explain things as well.
Yeah.
And then everyone probably was saying, oh yeah, that sounds cool, Core JJ. And like, because he's probably really vocal about it and really wants it. I mean, I'm just playing out some narrative in my head right now. So sorry, Core JJ, for throwing you under the bus here.
Yeah.
Apologize. But yeah, anyway, look, I think that's been said. Definitely interesting. So TLDR, I think maybe we over-exaggerated a few points. I think it's actually not too bad. Without comms.
Yes.
Remove comms and the whole entire... And if you somehow figure out the ping issue, it's not too bad. That ping issue is a big one. I don't know how they...
It's a sticky situation.
But it just sounds like a giant utopia. That's it.
Yeah,
so
it's what
I
they're
think
trying
that
to
they're looking for something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I think that's the fundamental issue. So rather than like equipping the players with the tools to be able to deal with the chaotic nature of solo queue, like, really getting into like the psychology, like maybe put out like a course out there that Riot put out for high-elo players, like the league community or like I said, figuring out a way to remove the trolls in Master Plus games, which I think is relatively simple. And I think the privatization of profiles could make the one tricks much more pleasant to play with because it would be harder for them to get banned out. Between all those things, I could see it. So I think that there's an easier way, less utopian, more in reality, more democratic way of doing this entire thing.
And thinking about the actual improvement.
But again,
process.
we sound like we sound like just armchair analysts right now,
Yeah.
man. Like
Yeah.
again, let's give props to them again one more time because I think that they're having
a crack. I agree.
We're sitting here on our comfy couch here from Melbourne, Australia, telling them NA how to do it. Come on, we're ridiculous now.
It is
What
ridiculous.
are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, this podcast is all about just talking shit. This is a conversation we would have had off camera anyway, representing it to, let's say, 10 people listen to it. Oh, that's interesting. That's cool. Done. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Next topic here. So, reflection of people's years and stuff. Thinking about, how your year went, reflection, like, what did you do well? What did you do wrong? What could I do better next year? I had someone I used to work with reach out to me, okay? And I just want to read just his message to me. He says, so he's randomly messaged me a DM saying, you shouldn't be surprised seeing me in my DMs. In the end, it turned out what I said about his problems and his mindset towards solo queue was 99% was right. He says he had the worst season he's ever had. tried to force success and improvement, having shit training sessions, having 16-hour solo queue sessions, bad nutrition, no workouts, terrible sleep, everything you can think of. I just realized that it would never work like that, so I want to make changes next year. And then I had a bit of a break, and then he said, he was stubborn listening to me saying that you shouldn't do these things, but he went to do it anyway, and now he's, realizing it's a problem. So
a year later.
So isn't that interesting? It's like, I came to him, this was my advice. I don't want to frame this from a perspective like, yes, I was right, I told you so. It's more like, these things are very obvious. Like, think about what he just said there. Like, how obvious are those things?
Yeah, there's no working out, no sleep, like
playing 16 hours a day,
no blocks.
It's so easy to be to get sucked into that in playing League of Legends.
Yeah.
Even if you understand he obviously clearly didn't understand the importance of having a process. Maybe once he does it, he'll finally understand.
Yeah.
But until you actually do it, it's very difficult to really get on board with our philosophy on the broken by concept.
Yeah, because in a way you kind of got to like hit rock bottom.
That's right.
And then be like, okay, finally, let's just see what this Curtis and Nathan guy is saying. Let's finally, I'll do it. You know.
So I think it's important. He had to do it.
Because in a way, I view like our mantra and like what we do is kind of like rehab.
Yeah, it's rehabilitation.
like the Emily Salted is rehabilitation.
It's
for people where
it's an Alcohol's Anonymous circle thing.
It is. It's an AA thing. Yeah. But I also kind of feel like there's two types of people you get. You get the people that kind of know that it's like there's about to be a fire and they're kind of getting in early to prevent the fire. And those people are smart. Like, okay, I know I can see how if I can go down this path, this is not going to end well. So they it's like a preventative measure and they think what they're doing is inefficient. Or there's the people that have been burnt, they've been burnt alive and now they're coming back and they want to do it the proper way.
Yeah.
So in a way, you kind of get the two types of people. And now for him, he's been burnt. Seems like a very painful experience, a wasted a year.
Yep.
And he's coming back. So look, and it's just annoying sometimes that it has to be like that. It's annoying.
It's frustrating.
Because it's a lot of time. We're talking thousands of games. We're talking hours of days of your life, weeks of your life wasted in terms of hours, months. It's sad,
And the sad thing is that I predicted it. It was so obvious to me,
Yeah.
And it's not until it happens, it's like, oh, well, fuck, I told you, It's like, it's frustrating. But, you do have to have those painful experiences.
Yeah, he's got to have it, And now, now's where we'll see. Will he change or not? Some people can't. You can only look. This is what I've also come to realize. Like you can only help people that want to be helped. Like sometimes I feel like we go out of our way to help people that they're not ready to be helped. They don't really want it. Like you kind of really got to want change to
figure
change.
It out.
Yeah, like sometimes I feel like I'm talking to people and they don't really want to change. You got to really want to change to make it work because League is just hard. It's brutal.
So difficult.
It's so hard.
Because the thing about his journey is like he had success with the 16 hours a day period
in short term,
but
and that's what messes you up because
they don't.
Time is the best indicator of success every fucking time. This is what we're saying. Show me the people that have been challenging for 8 seasons in a row. Show me. Where are they all? If they've solved it, where are they all? Why am I getting better in higher elo? Why is everyone else falling off? That is my age.
It's a great question.
It's not rocket science. It just isn't. And this is the thing they say, but this person's doing it. Yeah, they're doing it right now. And they might have done it for like a last year. But have they done it for years?
Because again, Curtis, the underlying psychology around gaming in League of Legends is either you're shit or you're good. There is no such thing as getting better. And anyone that has gotten better is just like, oh, that's pretty cool. Good work. You were actually good talented the whole time. I knew you were talented the whole time. And
again, I'm gonna say this to the cows go home. We never see the people that fail. We never hear the people that fail.
Correct,
we only hear
the success
of this. And we said this when we saw the statistics of the people that are in Challenger or whatever. 0.01% or whatever. 0.001%. Yeah, we can idolize those people all you want. But we're looking at the only people that have survived. There's no Squid Game. We don't see all the failed bodies behind us.
We don't see the dead bodies.
We don't see the dead bodies in Squid Game. They just vanished into thin air. They're gone. And this is the thing. And we got to bring it to the surface. In a way, what we got to do, Nathan, as sad it is for that client, what you should do is you should create like a little like a little memorial, and you get like a real coffin, and then you write his name in there, and then you kind of burn some candles, and then you kind of make it really religious, and then you gather everyone round and say, this is what will happen.
This is what he did.
This is real. And then you'll say a prayer, and then you part ways.
Yeah.
And it should become like a monthly thing. We all meet and we gather around and we do this thing.
We learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, we learn from, and I'm memeing here, but you kind of get the point. In a way, we need to remember these are important to bring up. These failures, because it is a failure, is crucial. Because these people, they're left to the wayside, and we laugh at them and say, haha, this guy's not talented, he sucks. But that's the reality. These people are getting burnt, and we forget about them and we ignore them, and they quit the game, and then they come back later and be like, but we should make even though it sounds terrible to say, we should make a message out of it. And so it's just not spoken about enough.
Do you have any stories like that, Curtis, with your people?
Yeah, look, I'm gonna roast 610 here.
Okay,
I'm gonna say his name.
You're calling him out.
Because 610, look, I love 610. I work with 610, and 610 is an incredibly hardworking, dedicated individual.
Very young.
Very young. He puts in the hours. He's made plenty of sacrifices. He actively has a great, good schedule. Like he does. Like the only thing that he doesn't do, he still refuses to play in blocks. But he does a lot of good things. He puts in the work. He's made the sacrifices. One of the things I told him way earlier on is that you got to stop playing so many champions, and you got to play less games. But he didn't do it, and he failed. And he's like, "Oh, I didn't finish Challenger. Like I didn't get to the rank I wanted."
Was he in a team as well?
And he was in a team at one point that was he thinks it wasn't a waste of time, and I told him it was a waste of time, and it obviously was a waste of time because it didn't make him any better, right? And so it's not like he got higher elo because of it. No, he got worse. He was Challenger, and he's like Grandmaster. So there's that. But anyway, like I told him, look, if you had actually played less, stop playing those random games at the end of the night where you're just dicking around on Discord, you actually had a smaller champion pool. Stop learning champions 24/7. You don't need to have a champion ocean. You can learn your champions like having the 8 champ pool later on when you're a competitive player. Let's just get high elo first with like 4 champs. 4 champs. Or something like that. 3 or 4 champs. Maybe 5 if they're simple. And then we can talk about it later on. I even showed him I made the video showing the stats of the top solo queue players in EU that play the same 5 champs basically every season. And he refused to listen to me, and he didn't finish Challenger. And he's a great player. And he said, look, sir, I'm sorry, I'll listen to you. But now he's doing it finally.
And it took another year, right?
It took another year, pissed away another year. I was like, well, time's ticking, man. If you don't get your shit together in the next year, just give up, man. You got one more year. If you want to go pro, because he wants to go pro, you got one more year. I told him. Get your shit together.
Very motivating. Curtis.
And, yeah. I mean, I've got many stories with other, like even with, I got another one. I won't say 2 others, actually. I'm not going to say their names. Very similar thing. Told them about the dangers of competitive. Shit the bed, lose all confidence. Come back saying, you're right, blah, 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 blah. And, there a lot of the time, this can be swept under the rug as a failure. And it's just sad. So slowly, Nathan, we're working one by one.
One by one.
One by one.
They're coming back. You're like, okay, let's try out this method.
And it's not perfect, right? I'm sure there's, it's a process. I'm not saying it's the most efficient process. It's a process. Yep. Better than nothing. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of, wasn't it like, where was it? There was a story, one of the books we read. It might have been Nicky Lauder's one where there was like a process was better than no process. Where did I hear that?
Can't remember.
I can't remember. Anyway.
Nicky Lauder one.
Was there anything else?
Any other topics, Curtis, you want to cover before we jump into Mailbag?
Oh, I wanted to talk about Loldodgegame.
Okay.
So I've been going hard on Loldodgegame. And, micro is a big thing. We always talk about how do I improve micro, mechanical execution. Like when you watch reviews, sometimes people just Yeah, you missed a skill shot, you failed this, you didn't dodge a skill shot. If you dodge this bubble, you win the skirmish. If you get hit by it, you lose. Very simple stuff, right? It's simple, but it's difficult to do reliably. And mechanical execution, micro, clicking and dodging and hitting skill shots is something that takes a lot of time. And I am just a massive advocate for the Loldodgegame. It's like a little browser game. And there's
it's called Loldodgegame.com.
It's called Loldodgegame.com, yeah. And there's a mode called Skillshot and Dodge, where you got to dodge incoming projectiles and do skill shots and like shoot things kind of like you would an Ezreal queue towards like incoming minions. So you got to do both at the same time. And there's different modes. There's like easy, medium, hard. And it is amazing for just like, I feel so on the ball. Like if I do that for like 20 minutes and I play like a Casio game, I'm not missing a cue. I'm like, my clicking's on point. Like I'm just laser. It's not even just physical warming up, like mental sharpness. And I just feel in it, you know? It's just a great warm up tool. And if you're lacking a pre-game ritual, Loldodgegame is the ultimate warm up tool because it does skill shot accuracy. You got to dodge incoming projectiles.
Warms up your fingers.
Warms up your mind, your fingers. You can play music while doing it to like get you into the zone. It's amazing. And so we've got a guy in the MLA right now that's got the record. So he's on this again, and this is by not using. So there's flash on it. We don't use flash. You're only allowed to dodge by moving.
Yep.
And so only the Q ability. With the shooting the projectile. So he's on hard mode, skill shot plus dodge game. He got like 6,200 or something like that, which is incredible. And my goal, I'm trying to beat him. Is Sheena. He's got the record. So I'm trying to beat him at the moment. I spent like 40 minutes the other day straight on it. Like I'm playing it over League at the moment. Like I'm grinding it.
Really?
Like I have more fun playing Loldodgegame than League itself at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm hooked. I'm actually hooked.
Is it the competition of beating him?
Yeah,
is
it's that. Because I know that he's got that number because I wouldn't have thought that was possible.
Until he did
it.
Fascinating.
And now he's done it. And now it's like, I just got to get it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm going to beat him. I mean, it's my personality. I'm not going to stop. I'm relentless.
Really?
I'm relentless.
That's awesome.
I'm going to beat him. Because I keep getting like I'm in the 4,000s, like 4,500.
Jeez, you got a lot to go, dude.
It's a lot to go.
Wow.
And it's just and what I love about it, but I don't understand how it's coded, but I swear like the more you click, the more rapidly you click, the harder it is. But I'm not 100% sure about that. Okay. Maybe it's in my mind. I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay. I love the other people's thoughts about this. Because but there's actually a guy that I follow when it comes to exercise. You know that Clarence Kennedy guy who does like the squats? This guy, he does like insane squats. And someone asked him, he says, why do you do squats like ass to ground with your form? Like, why do you do, because you don't have to do as deep. He goes like really deep. Like his ass literally barely touches the ground, right? Scrapes the ground. And someone asked him like, why do you go that deep? And he says, I just like the look of it. That's what he said. Like, it's not even about the full range of motion. It's about, he likes the look of it. And when my clicking, I do extremely fast, rapid clicks. Not because it's even that necessary, but because that's just, I think that's beautiful League of Legends. So in my eyes, I don't have to, I'm not, even though I could like, I think make it easier for myself by clicking a little bit less, because my APM's like really high. Like I'm making it harder for myself because I just feel like that's beautiful League of Legends. Like I feel like if I can do this and get that score, it's like a 2-in-1 for me. It's like, that's how I want to play the game. So I don't know if it's all in my head. I'd love to get like feedback from people in the community, see if they click less, it's easier. Because I tried it. It was weird. So I was clicking really rapidly, right? I think my APM was around 460 it shows you APM when you die. And then when I dropped my APM to about 370, I was clicking less. It felt like the projectiles were less rapid and more like coming from a similar angle. So it felt easier. So I don't know if that's just in my head. I don't know. I'd love to hear thoughts on that. But regardless, however you want to use it, regardless of the scoreline you're getting, as a simple warm-up tool and for mental sharpness and for anyone looking to get better mechanically and dodging and hitting skill shots and getting into the flow state. And that's the last thing I want to mention about this. What I love about it is that it forces you to be hyper present in the moment. What I found myself doing at times when playing the game was that I kept, in the corner of my eye, I kept keeping track of the score, because at the top it keeps track of the scores, like going up, the numbers going up. And whenever I started getting higher in the game to around 4,000, I start shitting the bed mechanically because I'm like, oh my God, I'm at 4,000. So what it actually forces you to do, in order to get a great score, you actually got to be ultra focused and present in the moment, not thinking about externals. You can't think about what is X person thinking
You
of
got to
me.
be in the zone. I mean, there's no way you're in 6,000 unless you're fully in the zone.
Fully in
right?
the zone. So
Yeah.
it's a way of forcing you to get comfortable and learn how to get yourself into the flow state.
When you're playing, how long does it take you to get into the zone, you reckon? You start, like, how?
I would say it takes me, it depends. If I'm using my playlist, I can get into the zone in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I'm 5 minutes in, I'm like, I'm in, I'm deep. Yeah.
Okay.
But without music, it would take me ages. But I have a playlist like that. I have like this drum and bass like playlist that I listen to while doing it, and it gives me like I just love it. It's great. So highly recommend. Highly recommend it. Cool.
Yep.
Jump into mailbag.
Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's Mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here is from Ethan. Title of this email is Transitioning the BBC Improvement Mindset to Other Games. Hi lads, new listener to the pod here, but long-time viewer of Curtis's YouTube content. I'm an average league player at best sitting mid-gold. However, in my primary choice of game right now, which is Valorant, I'm sitting in Immortal. I believe, is that Challenger in Valorant?
Sounds like
I
it.
think it is, yeah.
Sounds
Immortal.
sounds pretty cool.
What
I
rank
don't think
are you?
Immortal would be Iron.
What rank are you? I'm an Immortal. Unkillable. This is roughly the equivalent of Master and GM in LoL.
Okay, there we
never
go.
mind. It's not
So it's
Challenger.
not Challenger's GM, Master GM.
Yeah.
Okay.
After listening to the podcast and hearing lots about the process of improving in League, it has intrigued me how the same mentality can be applied to another game. I've been doing my best to come up with various trees of improvement I can focus on in Valorant, but I've been struggling considering things from League like assessing win conditions and champ mastery are not as apparent. I was wondering the process you undertook to come up with your initial improvement process when you first made it. And if you have any tips concerning the manner, I am unsure your depth of knowledge about tactical FPS games, so please do not feel obliged to answer if you feel it is out of your depth. Keep up the sick work. You've earned yourselves another regular listener.
Thanks, Ethan.
So I obviously chose this question because I thought it was interesting because you do have an FPS background, Curtis.
Yeah. I mean,
So I guess his question is, so he's been trying to experiment with learning objectives, but he wants to think about, well, first question, how did we come up with our improvement process? Like,
well, it was all reverse engineered.
it's a reverse engineer.
So like what worked for us, like, so what, it's like, what are we doing that's leading to good things?
Yeah.
And then
Why does that
why are we able to do this? So let's use an example. When I think about how to determine how to use my Twisted Fate ult, what is going through my mind? Why is sometimes I look at top and I'm like, nah, and then when I look at bottom, I'm like, yes. Like,
Yeah,
why?
yeah.
Like the most simple level. So, and then I'll actually really take the time to break down what I'm thinking. So I'm like, I'm actually looking at how much mobility they have. I'm looking at who's my strong side, weak side. I'm looking at the wave state. I'm looking at my jungler's location. Like, then I'll create a video or that's like how I would teach learning how to get good at Twisted Fate. I'll get specific about the variables that you're considering. So everything's reverse engineered from what worked for us in a way. And for you, I'm assuming it's like with ganks, like looked at ganks that worked and didn't
What's
work.
a good gank? What's a bad gank? Why is it when I do the dragon this time, even though I've got some certain good conditions, why is it that I feel like I'm behind once I do that dragon? That's talking about tempo.
It's largely
loss.
from feel, isn't
From
it?
feel,
a lot
yeah.
of our findings are just from feel.
It's like it starts with feel and then it makes sense when you break it down.
Yeah. That's what I think league is. That's the best way to figure out coaching and learning in general is feel. We develop a lot of intuition and then you kind of break down that intuition and what makes up that intuition.
Because you have no time in a game to think. Like it has to be, you have to rely on intuition.
Well,
all
when
the
you
time.
play, especially for us, we played the game for so long.
long, yeah.
You know, we've developed so much intuition.
Yeah.
But it helped us get better and more reliable as players when we started to think like that. It actually shifted my entire view of the game when I
Yeah.
started trying to teach people how to play mid lane. I got better as a mid laner because I'm like, oh, wow. yeah, I should do this more often, you know? Like, I actually saw some of my own flaws in my gameplay. So I think what I would recommend for Ethan at a really, like, simple level, maybe a tool that he could use is, okay, look at something that went really well, like a round or like a kill, or why did this work? Why did it work this
Why
time?
did it feel
And why
like
did it feel
worked?
right?
Yeah.
Because when I played Counter-Strike, just thinking back on it, a lot of what I did was feel. Like, I had a feel for where they're going to be and why. I had a feel for when they were going to use their flashes. I had a feel for, like, where they were smoking. I had a feel for that this was the right spot in this round. And, like, I just kind of, like... There's a rhythm to FPSs in a way. There's like a rhythm to the rounds, and you can kind of get into the minds of the opponent.
That's what you're really doing, especially on the highest level. That's what we do in League. We're reading our opponents. That's all we're actually doing.
Especially at the highest level,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. You're not really playing.
Psychology,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're just. It's like psychology. Yeah, it's like understanding why they're going to do what they're doing. So that's what I would really get into. Try and follow your instincts. Why did it feel right to go here? And if it did work out, what did you see? Where did that come from? And then you might find some really interesting finding where, like, oh, if the enemy have lost 3 rounds in a row, they're gonna blah blah blah. Or if they're behind, they're gonna over-index on not using smokes, and they're probably gonna rush a bomb site, or whatever it might be. I'm sure there's some trends that you can find that can lead to interesting concepts. I would also say that I would watch very good players and and then what I'll do is pause and be like, what would I do in this scenario?
Yeah.
Like,
And then look at what they
look at
do.
it from their
Why is it
perspective if
different?
possible, and like, look at what I would do, and then look at what they would do, and then why is there a difference? What are they seeing? And what? So a very common thing I got in League, and when I watched like Dopa, for example, play TF, I would like watch him do things and be like, this feels really uncomfortable for me, but why is it not? Why do I feel uncomfortable? And why does he not? And it's like, okay, he has a better understanding of the jungle's location, or like he's very comfortable in avoiding this ability. Like, and then I could find my own weaknesses. So looking at high elo players from their point of view is very important, but you got to be very intentional about it and take the time to pause and go through that process. Compare your view to their view. That's kind of what I would do, and don't take what they do for Bible, for gospel. Like, don't just blindly follow what they do, but just try and be analytical and critical about it. And then you can reverse engineer concepts, create your own concepts in a way.
Yep.
I'd say that, man.
I mean, you've actually never played a game of Valorant, have you?
Yeah, I've played a bit of Valorant.
Is there like smokes and stuff? Like, what's the
it's like a
tactical
lot of
aspects?
utility, dude. You
have like ultimates,
it's like
right?
Overwatch, because all the champions, all the hero, I don't know what the fuck they're called. They all have like abilities. Like, they have like 4 abilities or something. It's just a lot of chaos. There's a lot of like force fields, and shit going everywhere.
Oh, so we're happy with that one. I hope that helped Ethan.
Yeah, look, I think that's the best we can give, really.
Our next question here is from Denton. The title of this email is More Win Condition Clarification. Hi guys, my name is Inertia and I am a Plat 4 ADC main who just recently set the goal of Diamond for the next coming season. I'm excited for this goal as Platinum has always been my goal and really feel if I put the time in I can make it as high as I want, even past Diamond maybe. I've been Plat 4 since Season 6 as AD carry and switched to top lane during Season 10 and got Plat there, but inevitably switched back to ADC in Season 11, ending in Plat just before November. He says he hated his champ pool. I have been watching several of Coach Curtis's YouTube videos and a lot of points about toxicity, the 3-block schedule, and importance of champion mastery have really resonated with me this past season, and I attribute my success to mostly champion mastery and stopping playing after 1 loss, in groups of 3 to 4 games, with even some reviews sprinkled in. I know you've helped a ton of people and even myself, although I don't even play mid-jungle. Thanks for all you both do. I just recently, within the last month or 2, got into your podcast and really enjoy listening to it as often as possible. I work in my cars most days, so that's pretty often. I had a question regarding win conditions, as that seems to be a recurring point in a lot of your talks, especially in regards to Diamond and above climbing, which I will be aiming at very, very soon. I'm a little confused as to the context of the question. If you ask yourself during Champ Select, who does well in this team versus their team, what is my win condition? Is the correct context in regards to yourself, such as what is the condition that I need to fulfill to win this game? Like, what can I do to make my champion in its strongest state? Or is the context more suited for your team as a whole, such as my team has X, Y win cons and I need to play this game out in a way that better enables those things to succeed? For example, I am the ADC, but my win condition this game is to wait for my mid or top that's winning to end the game on their terms. How would I, as an ADC, enable that identified as the win condition? A more specific example of why it's confusing to me and may not be to others that I've played ADC since Season 3, and generally if the game goes late enough, I'm the win con, or at least an option for the win condition of my team. So to avoid overthinking or simplifying, could you please clarify in the context of an ADC main what assessing win conditions might be? I feel the cop-out answer every game would be for me to get strong and be a consistent damage source to win the game. If it helps, I play Caitlyn Draven and will pick up Xayah as the third ADC very soon. So that's his question. How do you view win conditions from an ADC perspective?
Do you want to kick it off or?
I got nothing.
Okay.
I got nothing.
So, okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. So
I do have something.
I think there's a few very important things.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, so I think you're right in saying that every game an AD carry is going to be a potential win con because that's just the AD carry. You hyperscale every game, you build crit, whatever.
You're full damage and you have a good position and you win a fight.
That's right. So I think you should nearly always play as if you are a carry, being very farm oriented, but that doesn't mean that you can't assess win con. So what I would say very practically is that there are going to be situations in which junglers will trade you off or play towards your side. So for example, let's say you have you're on blue side and you have like a Rek'Sai and you leave for your Rek'Sai on the red and then you go to bot. But their AD carry and support didn't have to like leash. So they and their jungler is starting red and pathing down towards bot lane. Their bot lane already has an advantage from level 1 because they got to start in lane and they're going to get lane control and they're going to get shove over you. And they're probably going to try and poke you and prevent you from getting to lane without taking damage. Especially if you're versing a poke support like a Karma or anything like that can kind of zone you. Now in this scenario, a lot of the time, you might find that the enemy AD carry support build waves into you, poke you under tower, you're going to miss a little bit of farm. Or you might even find that the enemy jungle paths down, they might threaten a dive. Or if the enemy's really smart, they might hard shove, bounce it back out to you, and then pull the wave, and then you get ganked. There's many, many things that can happen here. In a lot of these scenarios, what's going to happen is that your jungler is going to say, oh shit, my bot lane's like losing, and I'm naturally pathing top side. I'm actually just going to gank top, and then just play towards my top side now. Like, I'm just going to leave bot. Like, they're behind, they've died, or they're just getting shit on. I don't want to go bot anymore. I'm just going to play top side, constantly path bot to top. So this is what we would call maybe like trading sides of the map in a way. Like your jungler's like leaving you on an island and you're there to kind of just survive. In these scenarios, and let's say your top laner gets 2 kills off this and your jungler's taken their entire enemy top side and your jungler and your top are getting really far ahead. In this scenario, you are not the main win condition and you are going to take a back seat. So in order to facilitate your top laner being the win condition, well, what would you do? You would try to lose gracefully. You would try to not die. You would try to get as much farm as you possibly could while conserving as many plates as possible while not dying and limiting what they can get on that side of the map. Right? So how you might do this by creatively thinning waves from a distance. You might do this by warding defensively to make sure you don't get dove, paying attention to the mid laner and like the amount of vision you have on bot side and potentially getting ready, like anticipating potential dives. You might just back off and give 2 plates and get the Krugs, wait for the next wave to come and then defend the tower. Like being okay with sacrificing and not dying. A part of your job when you're playing on quote unquote the weak side of the map is that you got to get comfortable with number 1, recognizing that you're the weak side of the map. And then number 2, knowing what to do about it. A lot of people lose games in bot lane and top lane. I mean, top and bot are kind of similar in that sense because they're mirrored. Because they don't accept reality that they are on the weak, quote-unquote, weak side of the map and that they've been traded off and other people on your team are fed. Now, the frustrating thing about it was what was his name again?
Inertia.
The frustrating thing about this, man, is that you might get traded off the entire game and then your top lane don't translate the lead and you just lose. That can happen. That's just the nature of your role.
Yep.
Alternatively, though, if the jungler passes towards you and gives you the kill, and trades off your top lane goes 0-2, you got to step up and be the carry. You are the win con. You're going to be the carry.
It's your responsibility.
It's your responsibility to know what to do. Build waves, chip tower plates, call for dragons, blah, 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 blah. So it's all on you. So then there are going to be some games where it's a mixed bag. It's everyone's, junglers are everywhere. It's not simple straight sides of the map in which you're just going to be a secondary win con. But it is a good habit to get into and know who is fed on your team and who is weak on your team. It's just a good habit to get into in general, But the other thing as well, AD carry, there's not really much you can do about it because you don't provide any utility anyway. So a lot of the time you're just a victim. The sad reality, because it's like a support can kind of facilitate a win con way more than you. You're just there to kind of lose gracefully if you aren't the win con. And if you are the win con, you step up, farm more, call lane at some create pressure, get towers, call for jungle, that sort of thing. You got to step up.
So everything you just said there, Curtis, is not about win conditions. It's about adaptation. You're talking about win conditions as the game's evolving. I think he's saying win conditions in terms of champ select and thinking about that.
I don't really believe in win cons from champ select though.
For an AD carry?
In general.
You don't even think for a jungler?
No.
Are you serious, Curtis?
Dead set. I think there's options. I wouldn't really call it a win con though.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Because win cons always evolve. Like, this is the thing. Like, the reason even if I'm playing Twisted Fate, I'm going to have an idea of like where I probably am going to use my ultimate, but I'm not going to rule anything out just because that's my win con because they got a good matchup and I don't ever think like that. I'll keep my options open. The win con is always evolving and based off what happens in that game. That's not the way I view the game. Like, I just think it's dangerous to label this is going to be my win con in loading screen because you have no idea what happens. They might level 1 invade, your top lane gets fucked, and they're not going to be in a win con anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's an adaptation, but Curtis, there is win conditions in terms of this jungle.
Like, I just never think. I never think like that.
You never think like that.
No.
You think I think that's fine, but if I'm playing like Rek'Sai, like I have a very clear way to win the game, and I do win the game that way.
Okay,
that's a win condition, is it? Or
right.
What's that?
I mean, for me as a mid lane, I guess maybe I have less productivity. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I just don't like. For me personally, I don't like labeling a win con from loading screen. Like, I would just call it, okay, that's probably volatile. Like, this is language difference. Like, I'm thinking that's a volatile matchup. Likely a bit of heavy trading is going to be there. I've got this jungler, they're likely, and then versus this jungler, they're likely going to do that. It's more about, like, I'm thinking about how the game is going to be played out. I don't, like, you got to be careful when you say win condition because, like a win con.
You think there's no adaptability to that? Is that what you think?
Yeah, I don't like the language because you don't know if that is or isn't a win con. Like, you don't know. It could be.
Yeah.
But I'd rather just call it for what it is. It's a heavy trading matchup. I want to be there. Or it's a volatile matchup. I want to be there. Or it's a snowballing matchup. I want to be there. This person, like, that's probably not going to be much trading down there. I don't want to be there. Or I have a full AD comp and 1 AP, maybe like 1 AP. I need to get that person ahead. Like, I view it a little
that's
like that.
called a win condition.
Right. I just don't.
You like options.
Because I like win. Yeah, I like options. And when I'm in the game, like, I'll know a win con when I see it. Like, it will become obvious to me when I see it.
But in champs, like, you could, like, let's say you've got a Malphite into 4 AD. It's pretty obvious who the win condition is it not?
It just leaves me. It just doesn't feel good to me. It's just a feeling thing,
That's an interesting perspective.
Like, it's just like that person's gonna be strong.
Yeah.
But my AD carry could fucking dominate. Like, that's why I just want to keep my options open.
Yeah.
And for me, anyway, when I think of WinCon, I tend to tunnel. So, like, if I'm in loading screen and I say, okay, I got a Malphite, I really want to play. He's my WinCon. Like, it just limits my...
It does limit. If you put it that perspective.
For me, anyway. It obviously is probably different for you, but just the language creates a certain response in my gameplay. And I don't want to tunnel. I want to be as open-minded as possible.
Yep.
For me. So I think it's good to think like that, but again, just be careful with the way you use that information.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's very important to be adaptable throughout the game.
There's definitely been times.
But I think that whole thing you're talking about is not relevant for an AD carry.
No.
Because they don't have any influence in the early game anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, it's more about adaptability.
It's all adaptation.
It's all adaptation as an AD carry.
Yeah. I mean, let's say junglers have the most influence in the early game.
Yeah.
You can create a win condition yourself very easily.
Yeah, but
But-
you can create a win con. Doesn't mean they are one. You can
Oh, sorry, you're
create
creating
one.
one. Yeah, that's right.
So you're
yeah.
creating win conditions.
Yeah.
It's not like they are a win con.
No.
It's like you're creating one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Yeah.
Depends what happens.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think he shouldn't be thinking about that. He's got to focus on mechanics
Yeah.
max,
Winning
getting
lane.
10 CS a minute.
And that's why, like, find a way to win your lane. That should be majority. And like, you know, so that whole thing, what I spoke about, the trading sides of the map, is important.
Yeah.
But like figuring out ways to like win lane is the most important thing.
All right, next question here is from Lucas. Hi, I'm 18 years old and I play mid lane. I really want to be the best I can in League and take it seriously. I hit Diamond 4 on EU West at the end of the season with Echo as my main champion, and he is the only champion I feel like I have champ mastery on. So I take this preseason seriously to learn new champs and have a good champ pool for the start of the next season. And of course, I have this mindset that I want to hit Challenger one day and maybe in a team and compete as a pro in League of Legends. So my question is, do you think it's too late for an 18-year-old who is not Challenger yet to become a pro in the future with the right mindset? Because I feel like it's something I want to try to achieve. And if I don't, I will regret it when I'm older, that I didn't try hard enough. Or do you think it's just a waste of time and I should just drop this thought of being a pro? I know it's an incredibly hard journey to reach pro level, but it just seems so fun to grind for something that you really want to achieve. By the way, big fan of the podcast. Thanks for making great content. Cheers, Luke. So we get this question all the time, Curtis.
Yeah.
What's our recurring response?
Or you want to kick it off?
Well, yeah, the clock's ticking. 18 years old, Diamond 4.
I mean, it's going to take at minimum 2 years to get Challenger. That's even doing it fast, right? One season will take him all the way to like Diamond 4 to like low Master. And then the next season you'd go from like Master to Challenger. And then you wouldn't even be high Challenger though. You'd be like mid to low Challenger. And then to even be remotely considered as a pro, you'd have to have another year on top of that to go from low Challenger to high Challenger. It's 3 years, so you'd be 21. So I think it's borderline impossible to go pro, personally. But there are many other leagues. Like, you don't have to be pro. Like, you can kind of play for teams on the side. Like, and I don't know if scholarships are a thing in EU. I don't really know how that works. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't view it like that. Just, it's a hobby. And if you happen to defy the laws of physics and get
really good real quick,
which is possible. I mean,
Yeah.
It's been done. Then sure, you can consider it. But I think that what's most important for you is that he needs to take his studies seriously. He needs to take his like, his schedule and everything, like learn, gym, sleep, just kind of testing things out. I don't think he should be actively making sacrifices left, right, and center for like his dream to go pro. Like,
what do you think if he dropped everything to try really hard for 1 year?
I mean, if that's
Because he says that he thinks he regrets if he doesn't try real hard.
I still think you can try really hard while not sacrificing
Yeah,
everything.
I agree.
Like,
yeah.
I think if you're really dedicated and say he's studying at university, you can still like just sacrifice like social life.
Well, that's what I did, dude.
Yeah.
I was in uni, dude, and
Yeah, you could do that.
I was in high school, dude, and that's when I got ranked 2.
Right. So you can sacrifice things, but not so you can still like spend a lot of time studying, do that, be really time efficient, focus on your sleep, your eating and your working out, and then play League. But you're gonna have to make sacrifices elsewhere, like set Netflix gone, social life probably gone. The sacrifices to be made. So if you want to do that for a year, you can do that, but it shouldn't come at the cost of your studies. But even then, it's such a stretch. And if you're even remotely unsure, then probably no, because you got to be you got to be absolutely delusional in order to kind of get there in a way.
I think it's important. I want to know how long he's been playing for, because if he had Diamond 4 first season, there's potential, I think.
Right. So if he's relatively new
But
to the game.
if he's been playing for 4 years, then like it's going to be rough, because again, you got all those invisible now he's built up.
Yeah,
and that sort of
true.
stuff.
We don't know what type of Diamond 4 he
habits.
is.
Yeah.
True. He could be like a
fresh Diamond 4.
A fresh Diamond 4 or a Diamond 4 that's been there for
tainted.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I think that's actually
That's actually a big one. Yeah. But I think like Nathan thing, like the whole you can do it for a year while making sacrifice, but not sacrificing everything. You can do that, and you'll know. You'll know by the end of next year.
Yeah, you'll know.
I mean, you'll know. You'll know by like 3/4 of the way through the year. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like if you're not already by halfway through the season master, and you're not going to make it.
We're all going to make it. We're going to rise. It's the Ziz quote, dude.
I mean, am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about getting to LEC, yeah, I mean, you've got to be...
But the thing is, there's so many leagues.
Yeah, there's a lot of leagues.
All those
I don't know the dynamic. I think maybe you can still make some good money.
Still make money. I mean, that's the thing. There are a lot of people that... Yeah, I mean, there's so many leagues, so many teams, like the French league, the German league,
the Spanish league,
English league, Spanish. There's so many leagues out there. So, like, I mean, I feel in a way like he would have to really impress people this next year. Like, he has like 1 year to kind of like. Yeah. So yeah.
How old's 6'10"?
I think he's like. I think he just turned 17.
Yeah.
And he's already been challenged when he was 16.
Yeah. And he's still struggling.
And yeah, he's struggling in like high GM.
Yeah.
So, but even then, like I reached out to people saying, you look at this 6'10" guy, I reached out to a few people to tell him to look at him, and it's like, he's not high enough.
Yeah.
You got to be like high challenger.
Yeah. To even be considered.
Yeah.
All right.
So do we answer it? Like, so it's essentially, if you want to go for it, this is your year.
Yep.
You got to get at least master tier by the middle of the year.
Yep.
You can still balance your life in a way that I don't think you need to sacrifice everything.
I mean, it's interesting. You had that story of that guy that just forced it too much. Like, that guy, I can't remember who it was in the MLA, but it's so dangerous to have that goal. Because you just force it and you'll just... you'll be following
It's either going to happen or it's not.
Yeah.
It's going to happen or it's not. You can't I feel like trying to be a pro is so stressful.
It's weird. It's the harder you try, the harder it is. The less you try, the easier it is.
Yeah, you kind of got to just let it happen. You'll know in a way.
Which is so contradictory.
And I hate that because that's so
what we say.
But the reason that's the case, Nathan, is because comparatively to real sports, traditional sports is they have systems in place. Like you're playing tennis.
Yeah, this guy's on his own, dude.
Yeah, you're on your own. He has to do a lot of shit on his own. Even if he's in the MLA, right? Say he joins the MLA. I can help him, but it's not like I'm there sitting behind him. If you're trying to go pro in tennis, you got a coach who's with you 5 days a week. It's so different.
It's very different, isn't it?
And you're gonna know so quick. They're gonna tell you. It's so different. This is the crazy thing about going pro in league. It's such a new thing. So I guess there are a lot of options in here. That's something we need to consider. But I think take Nathan's advice. You can't. As weird as this is to say, you can't aim for it. You just got to try your best, and then if it looks right, then you'll know, in a way.
You can aim for it at a certain point, right? So let's say if you're I feel like aiming for it. I think I need to clarify this. Aiming for it when you're Diamond 4 is dangerous.
Aiming for it when you're GM.
Aiming for it when you're GM, that's fine. Because you're okay, now I'm gonna fucking really
you've got some foundation.
Yeah.
I can see that I can do it. It's I see the hope.
Yeah, I mean, with Will, it's I don't think he had any sort of he thought it was cool. When he was in his Diamond Master days, then he got GM.
Once you start versing other high elo players, that's when it becomes real.
Yeah.
When you verse other pro players, you're I can beat these guys. Yeah. That's when it kind of switches.
I can do this.
Yeah, it's a switch flex. Yeah. I think that's with 610. He's shitting on really good players, and it's I can do this. That's when it all switches. Yeah, that's a good point actually.
In Diamond 4, you can't really say I can do this yet because you actually don't really know.
No. Yeah, you're right. You're spot on. Because you don't even have the competence. You don't really know what you're getting yourself into in a way.
Yeah, no, you don't do it. It's brutal.
It's very brutal, yeah.
Being a pro player, dude, it's not sunshine and rainbows, I can tell you that.
But high elo, you don't even know what high elo is right?
Yeah.
Master Plus. It's a different ball game.
What it feels like and everything.
What it feels like, yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully that helps, Luke. Anything else around this one, Curtis? We'll wrap up the episode
Wrap it
there.
up. Yep. Book club, starting new book this week.
December, our last book of the month.
Last book of the
What
month.
book are we doing, Curtis?
Influence.
We're reading Influence together.
That's a good one.
Who's it by?
Robert Caldini or something.
Robert Galdini.
Caldini.
Yep.
Clips channel, as per usual. Shout out to Francine. That's pretty much it, man.
Excellent. All right. Good work, everyone. Let's keep on using the preseason as best we can.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time.